A member in our passive income school community messaged me and asked me, where do they start? How do they make money online? There's a lot of different resources and a lot of different places to go in our community, but they're not sure, like I said, where to start. And with the recent release of the AI blog printer tool that I created, it seems like there's a lot of options, but maybe even people are not sure where to exactly go. And I like to break things up into two main categories. And I gave the person who asked me that question in our members area, it was Brandy. Shout out to Brandy. If you're watching this, thanks for watching. But I basically told that person, I said, I asked them, have you watched any of the campus videos? My recommendation is watch all that content. And because, the more information you gain, then you kind of know what to do. You know where to take things. You know what your next step is. It doesn't make sense for me to personally tell somebody do this or do that because they might not be ready for it in their life, right? That just makes sense. But in general, you have really two types of income. You have the side hustle income and you have the main hustle income, right? And for everybody watching, you need to think about this yourself. Side hustle income, most people kind of give a definition to side hustles is based on time. They think their main hustle is the thing that they're going to spend the most time on, and their side hustle is going to be the thing that, they give less time to. And I don't define it that way at all. I define side hustle as things that you don't own. So you don't have ownership over. You don't have ownership, and they also can't be reoccurring. So not reoccurring. Okay? And the reason why I do that is because I look at certain income hustles, let's just say, and I say that these income hustles are relatively, I would say, temporary, as crazy as that sounds. If you look at, for example, something like an Etsy store, as great as Etsy is, and I love Etsy, and it makes me money every single month, as great as Etsy is, I could be shut down on Etsy tomorrow. Now, some people might say, well, if you're not breaking any rules and you're not doing anything wrong on the platform, there's no reason for them to get rid of you, right? Well, logically and technically, yes, there is no reason. But it's happened to thousands of people. I mean, you could do a basic Google search. People on Reddit, people on Google, people even on YouTube making videos, they don't know what to do with themselves. Their Etsy store that was paying their family's bills that they were living off of for the last 5 years just somehow deleted, just somehow banned from the platform. And this is not just with Etsy, but this is all the kind of platforms that you necessarily can't control. If you have a Merch by Amazon account, that Merch by Amazon account could potentially be making you 10 grand a month, but you don't own it. You have no ownership over it. And if they remove you, you're gone. That's it. There is no negotiating. I mean, you could file an appeal, but that almost never works. Only very few circumstances people, get their accounts back. I mean, I could go down the list over and over and over again, but everybody knows what kind of platforms I'm talking about. Your Redbubbles, your TeePublics, your eBay, all these kind of different platforms. So once again, it's something that you don't own, and it's not necessarily reoccurring. So if it's something you don't own, that's it. That checks off to be side hustle income. Now, once again, I want you to not think like an amateur. Most people think like amateurs, and they say it's all about time. The amount of time I'm investing into a business. And that's not the case. If you look at some of my behaviors, let's say blogging, for example, which was my main income source for many years, and I had over 70 plus websites, there wasn't much time that I was doing writing articles. I was more managing people. And based on that, people would say, oh, it's a side hustle. You're investing more time creating 60 designs a day on Redbubble every day, 30 designs on TeePublic, another 5-10 products on Etsy, another 2-3 products on Zazzle, another 20 products on Society6 every day. You're clearly spending more time on print on demand than you on your blogging, but that's not the case because I have ownership over my blog. So the main hustle income is things that you have ownership over. That's the first thing. And the way main hustle income gets better is if you figure out how to make it reoccurring. And a lot of people immediately, when they think of reoccurring income, they think of what? They think of subscriptions, they think of software, they think of a newsletter, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. An e-commerce store could be technically reoccurring because you can do digital e-com. And if it's digital e-com and you have a marketing source that invests less of your time and less of your effort, less of your energy, and somehow it's getting you customers on autopilot, which is possible over time, that can technically be a reoccurring. Because once again, you have to think outside the box. You can't keep thinking like a normal person would define reoccurring. Because if I asked you to define, or anybody to define what's reoccurring income, they would say a business, like a subscription business like Netflix, where the customer pays over and over and over again. Now, technically, is that reoccurring? Of course it is. But I'm asking you to not think that kind of way and think of it in a different approach entirely, where how can I turn a business that wouldn't normally be reoccurring, like let's say, for example, I sell chapstick through Shopify on my Shopify store, right? If I sell that on my Shopify store, how can I make that reoccurring? Well, I could do something basic, like I can ask customers to subscribe for a cheaper price. That's something that I could do. Or I can automate the marketing system to consistently get me reoccurring revenue through my consumers, both giving me new and reoccurring customers, right? The fact that I can get new customers over each and every month without me having to invest my time, effort, and energy can make the business reoccurring. But the thing that's the most important is the fact that I have ownership over it. That's the most important. Now, let's say, for example, my side hustle income made me 10 grand a month. And let's say my main hustle income made me 2 grand a month. Okay? 2K a month. In this case, I would still consider the main hustle income my true main hustle, because this 10K a month has an expiry date on it. It has a date where everything can be taken away from me. Now, this 2K a month, it does have an expiry date as well, but the expiration date is based on me. It's not based on the whims of a company. If Redbubble decides to wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to snap my fingers and make 17 of his Redbubble stores just vanish, they can do that. And I can lose $5,600 a month coming into my bank account, right? But if I decide to go to one of my, let's say, my blogs that produce me $7,900 a month, if I say, you know, I decide I'm done working on this thing and done improving it, and 3 years go by and 7,900 turns into, let's say, 2,900, I'm still making money. But then let's say 3 years after that, that 2,900 turns into $400, and then 2 years later, the 400 doesn't generate anything at all, right? It goes down to zero. Well, then I killed off that business because of my own behavior, not because of somebody else's point of view of me or, you know, someone else's requirements. So as we're moving into this time, guys, where things are becoming more stringent, and if you look at the economy, and that's what I mean, more stringent, the economy is getting more rough. It's getting more difficult to make money. And it's not necessarily just business. It's just a few things. It's competition. It's jobs are not hiring as much, and they're not going to hire as much. They're going to employ AI employees, which is why I tell you guys, you have to figure out some sort of AI system. For me and the people in my passive income school, we've created the AI blogger. I call it the AI blog printer. And basically what it does is you highly train an AI to write articles in such a way that they can rank on Google. And then with a little bit of niche training and things like that, you know what niches to tackle and you're able to make money from that. But everybody should somehow think of this approach to making money online. If you come up on what they call a lick, right? If you hit a lick, meaning you get lucky and you make a quick $500 and you're not used to that, that's not something you should consider your main income. It should be something that's like, hey, I got lucky this month, but I'm really focused on the main hustle. Now, let's think in the concept of time now, because sometimes a main hustle can be automated. It could be, right? Sometimes a main hustle could be automated, and sometimes a side hustle could be automated. But more importantly, I don't want you to believe or to think that main hustles always have to take more of your time. That's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true at all, in fact. There are some businesses out there where you might be spending a lot of time in your side hustle, but your main hustle is cash flowing every month because you've done enough work to it and it's effectively become passive. So instead of thinking of like, what's the next get rich quick thing, or what can I do to make a whole ton of money real quick, instead think of frameworks in this point of view: side hustle, main hustle. And don't think about it how normal people would define what a side or main hustle is. Think about it in terms of ownership. What do I have ownership over? And everything that you have ownership over goes into the main hustle category. And everything that you don't have ownership over goes into the side hustle category. And every single month when you're doing your, you're seeing your income levels and you're calculating P&Ls, if you do that, you look at yourself and you say, I made, let's just say, for example, $5,600. This is just an example, right? I'm throwing numbers out here. I made $5,600 from side hustles, but I made $2,100 from main hustles. And my true income is $2,100, not $5,600. Now, obviously, on the balance sheet, that $5,600 counts. But in your mental note, you have to tell yourself, I'm only making $2,100. This $5,600 doesn't count. And obviously, you put money away for taxes, the whole thing. But from a mental perspective, now in your mind, you're not making $7,700 a month anymore. You're making $2,100. So you're going to start focusing more on how can I invest more effort, energy, and assets into my main hustle, because that potentially has more longevity as opposed to the side hustles. The side hustles are great, and you can make a lot of money in the side hustles. But once again, ownership matters. And I've seen people before, even to myself, I've seen people go through situations where they're making phenomenal amounts of money from something, and then it just cuts dry. And a good example of this is just recently on Friday. On Friday, for those who don't know, the markets tanked dramatically. It was a dramatic tank. Just in the crypto market, it was the biggest liquidation in history on the crypto market. Never before have that many sell-offs happened in crypto. Now, there's a lot of young dudes and young ladies, from ages like 17 to like in their 20s, who only made crypto money for the past few years. Crypto has been, it's had its downs, but it's also had its ups, and they're relying on that income, and they don't have a job. And so they're leveraged, they're in the market, and then the market goes upside down, it goes belly up, and they lose almost everything they built. And they don't have any kind of main hustle income. Even if they were saved and they never lost any money on Friday, which was just recently during the crash, and it might even crash worse, honestly, but even if they didn't lose money, they have no other income. And the thing is that when the income stops, they're not producing the same level of cash flow as they once were. But their expenses are still the same. Their expenses aren't going down. They're probably, leasing the Lambo, leasing the Porsche, leasing their property. They have high expenses, and they're probably used to, let's just say the average person in crypto who's successful is making 20, 30K a month. I don't know. I really don't know, but I'm just putting it out there. And their expenses, if you think about it, a Lambo's like, after insurance, after gas, after maintenance, like 5.5K a month, right? We're talking about one that costs $250,000, right? Or maybe 300,000. You're talking about 5 to 6K a month, right, in fees. And then you have, let's just say, a property to go along with it. The property that you're renting might be, $4,500 a month, $6,000 a month. That's easily right there, 12K, 11K, 10K in total expenses. That's just on two things. That's the house and the car, right? And we're talking about a lease. And you're normally making 20, 30K a month. So then what? You have food, you have going out, you have experiences. Easily 15 to 17K a month is burned in just life expenses. And then you have to pay taxes on top of that. And they might be able to get away writing certain stuff off, but really they shouldn't be, which is technically, it would be tax fraud, right? But let's just say they're writing certain stuff off that might not necessarily apply. And they might be lucky to take away $1 or $2 grand a month, if that, to save by the end of the year, per month in their savings. And then when the income dries up, they're not really producing any more income, and they're in a rough situation. Now they're stressing. The whole reason why I focused on making money online is because I preferred freedom, financial freedom. And there's no freedom in making 30K a month, but walking away with 1 or 2K in savings every month. That's not freedom. That's you boosting your expenses to such a high level where you financially don't belong, and you're trying to live a lifestyle that you haven't earned yet. That's effectively what it is. But that's what we've seen in the crypto market. And people's whole entire accounts got liquidated on Friday. Like people literally killed themselves. And I made a post about this in my members area. So where you should start, and where should everybody start, is you need to sit down and really just plan. You don't need to get attracted by every shiny object syndrome that you see. You don't need to see an ad about Shopify and then all of a sudden you go do Shopify. You need to really sit down and ask yourself, what can I do to make money? What are potential paths? And you list them out, and you ask yourself, okay, what's a side hustle? What's a main hustle? The next thing you should do, and this is level 2, is you need to start thinking, how can I automate? Because what's happening, guys, and I said this already, but competition is rising. AI's power is increasing, and that's going to make it harder for you to make money. Because if everybody gets better and you stay stagnant, you're not going to be able to do anything. If you look at the people in print on demand right here, right now, there's a whole host of people, like 80% of the people, they're not automating, they have no use for AI, and they sit there and they do everything manually. Those are the first people that are going to lose their shirts, because they're not keeping up with the technology, the level of technology and the competition. And so you're going to have people on Redbubble, on TeePublic, on Etsy, they're going full AI, and then you have everyone else who sits there and do things manually because they watch a YouTube tutorial on how to do things manually. And then next thing you know, they're wondering 4 years from now why they're not making any money, and they used to make $500-$600 a month. And now they have nothing because they haven't built anything else. And I talked about this before, which is the print-on-demand mind virus, which is when people start making print-on-demand money, because it's relatively easy to make print-on-demand money, at least for the last 5 years, they don't do anything else. They don't invest their time in anything else. They don't learn anything else. They don't focus on any other way to make money. And if you have that virus, you need to fix yourself and cure your mind, because you're going to get crushed when people start automating. And people already are doing it. I'm doing it right now. And so you have to look at a current business. It doesn't matter if it's a side hustle or a main hustle, and say, okay, how can I start automating? For me, and I'll just tell you this right now, what was my main hustle? It was building websites. Those websites house articles, and those articles pay me money. That's really what it came down to. And I'm not talking about just ads. I'm talking about selling products through those articles, whether it be affiliate marketing or products that I have ownership over, or, a friend's website that gets sent there and I make money through that. But essentially, websites to articles. How am I deciding to automate this? Well, I have to do it the intelligent way. If I just sign up to any kind of AI tool that writes articles for me, it's not going to work. And that's, essentially, that's how people who get into that trap, unfortunately, they think they're automating, but they're really not. You have to do it successfully. You have to be able to guarantee that it's going to work. So what did I do? I built my own custom software. And the custom software, what does it do? It gets trained by me. So I train it. I train it on how to speak. I train it on what products to sell. I train it on how to sell. I train it on what psychological tools to be able to sell properly. I train it on what to say, what not to say, how to speak. Like I said, I train it on everything, and then it goes out there and it writes articles for me based on a certain topic. So essentially what I do here is I took everything I know about building successful websites and articles, where I had over 70 plus of them, and I sold them, and I just took that and basically uploaded it to an AI, and that AI software is then responsible for writing full-fledged articles with that same mentality that's outside of the box AI. So when I say outside of the box, I don't mean what I mean is I'm not going to chatgpt.com. I'm not going to claudeai.com. I'm not using these little chat bots where you could just ask a question to ChatGPT. Although those tools are really useful, it's not going to really serve me in this situation. It will only make things worse. So I've created that tool for myself, right? And because I created it for myself, I allow my AI members, not my AI members, but my passive income school members to use that software as well at a very, very, very low cost. So that's an example of how I'm deciding to automate a specific business. And over time, the more articles I publish, the more training that I do, and the better training that I do to the AI, it will produce for me better articles, which essentially is an asset that I have ownership over, right? Because remember, I own my own websites. It's not like Shopify owns them or Etsy owns them or whoever owns them. I own them myself. And then they'll bring in income because of the reoccurring promotional system. And what is the recurring promotional system? It's AI blogging. And there's always going to be people, even if it's a little bit, there's always going to be people that are going to be Googling things. Because what I train not only the AI to do, but myself, even when I was writing the articles, and when my students on our passive income school, what I train them to do is look for niches that are relatively small, that don't have much competition, where there's lack of information, where people really need your help because there's not much information out there. Look for those niches, become an expert in those niches, or a commentator, or I have like a little spreadsheet that talks about that. But look for those niches and then create content in that. Now, you guys don't have to do articles. Not everybody is designed for that. So not everybody wants to do that. Some people want to be YouTubers. In fact, actually in my members area, I say, if you can match these two, if you can take video content, match it with article content, now you created a storm of success. Because video is now more prevalent than ever before. You mix that two together, you're really moving mountains. But some people are not into video. Some people are not into owning a blog. Maybe some people are really focused on creating AI ads with e-commerce. Maybe that's your thing. I don't know. Everybody's a little bit different, right? And everybody has different talents, and everybody has different strong points. Maybe some people listening to this are actors, and they want to do some acting, so they clone their voice, and they figure out how to sell their voice online. There's different things that you could do, guys, and everybody has different ways, but you have to sit down and think, okay, what are going to be my side income hustles? What are going to be my main income hustles? If you look at our channel, we've already shown some side income hustles. We have Redbubble, we have TeePublic, we have stock photography. Stock photography is one of the easiest ways to print money today. With the strategies that we've shown not only in the course, but in our members area, we've gone deep on that. And there are people who watch this YouTube channel who've never made a single dollar online, not a single dollar. Take that course and then start making money, starting literally from the first week. And that's not an exaggeration. So it's just a matter of sitting down, like I said, and figuring it out. What are you going to do? Because the world is not going to get easier. It's only going to get harder from this point. We have the stock market crash that just went on. We have some weird things going on in politics, like really weird things. People are saying potential wars are coming. A lot of different things are happening. AI is emerging. And if you think that the government is going to give you universal basic income, you're fooling yourself. They don't even pay our veterans. How are they going to pay you universal basic income when the AI comes out? It's not going to happen. So you really need to sit down and be like, okay, this is a problem. And I need to figure out what I'm going to do for the next 2 to 5 years. Things pivot so quickly and they change so quickly. So, that's why I say this system, this strategy of thought will help you on your journey to making more money. And a little side tip, and I've spoken about this in my members area, but save your money. Save your money and only pay for things that help you make more money. So whether it's an investment, a software, a course, those are the things you should put your money in. If you really want like the new designer bag from Gucci, hold on. Just wait for a few years. I know it might kill you to hear that, but it's a difficult thing to hear. But I'm telling you, things are going to get rough, and the time is coming, and the time is already starting for people. This is not what I'm saying is not foreign. And I'm wondering how some people are even able to survive right now, because there are some people who simply don't make money online. They have no job. I have no idea how they're making it month to month. I really don't know. But I was in a situation where nobody was going to come save me. I had to literally figure it out all myself. And over time, thankfully, I did. But the world today is not what it was 9 years ago. Today, it's much more risky because if you choose to slow down on this, if you choose to sit back and just wait for things to happen, you're going to get ran over and you might even be on the streets. And I'm not exaggerating. So AI is coming, and it's actually already here. Pandora's box is already opened, and it's just a matter of time until all companies decide to use it. They're never going to hire customer service support people anymore. They're not going to hire people to work in grocery stores. They're not going to hire people to work in restaurants. Everything is you're just not going to be needed anymore as a human being. So you're going to start to need to figure out, how can I start to produce income for myself? And being an employee is a great blessing, but I don't think that blessing is going to be around for many people much longer. I think 5 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised if 40% of the workforce is gone. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So this is serious. And this is nothing to be played with, because you're going to look back 5 years from now, if you're one of those people that are going to end up sleeping on the streets, and you're going to say to yourself, man, I wish I would have done something 3 years ago when I had the chance. But there's a lot of people, like I said, who are not. They're just going to sit back and watch and keep watching TV and not focus on their work. And I hate to say this, but look at a lot of the people who are seniors right now who are retired. Because of the market crash and certain things happening, they might they might need to retire now. They might not have any money. Their Social Security is not providing enough income, so they might need to start pulling out of their 401k, and they're losing dollars per every penny they pull out. Because if they just left the money in the market, who knows, maybe in a year it could get better. But right now, we are entering a bear market potentially. When Trump announced the tariffs, 100% tariffs with China, the market took an immediate response, and some stocks fell 4 or 5%. Some stocks fell even 7 to 9%. But it's only going to get worse. I hope it doesn't. But that would be a utopia. Things are going to get rough. And like I said, I don't think the government's going to step in and help people out and say, everybody deserves universal basic income. I don't think it's going to happen. Like I said, I looked into things, and I see veterans on the streets in New York City, sleeping on the streets. We're talking homeless, like an animal sleeping on the streets. And then they ship in illegal immigrants that are getting, free hotels and free gift cards and free money and all kinds of craziness, which doesn't make sense to me. So there's an imbalance here that is just making my mind think something is not right, something is off, and a lot of people are going to get hurt in the long term. The only thing you could do right now, like I said, is save your money, put money towards things that will help you make more money, and keep your expenses low and keep working to save as much money as possible. Because this storm is coming, and God only knows how long it's going to last until something, makes life easier. But, for me, I have my mind set up. I'm working on these custom softwares that help me automate different businesses. So I'm building a software right now that will, AI image generator, that will send images to Redbubble and print and post them on my behalf. So I don't have to do any work there. And that might save me 30 minutes, 15 minutes out of the day. With text and print on demand and all that. TeePublic, same thing. Etsy, figuring out a tool for that, right? And I'm just letting the AI kind of do its thing. Obviously, these things take time to build. They take time to work. Like this blogging tool that I created, and I'll throw some video on the screen right now. This AI printer blogger that I've created, this tool took me like 2 months to build. It wasn't easy, and it was a lot of work, and I'm talking about clocking in 10-hour days. But it's custom. It's something that I have worked on really, really hard, and like I said, I'm offering it to my members, but more importantly, it's something that is giving me the chance to equalize the playing field amongst the big companies. Because like I said, big companies, the way they see this is, if they get their hands on a software to automate their customer support through chat, why on earth would they go hire 1,000 people? They're just going to decide, okay, let's use the chat bot to automate customer support. Let's train the AI bot. Let's invest $5,000 in training the AI bot, and we'll never have to hire another employee again for customer support. That's the way they see things. T-Mobile, Verizon, Con Ed, all these companies are doing this as we speak. and people are going to lose their jobs. They're just not going to be needed. And that saying that they say good times create weak men. And that's what's going to happen. Right now people are weak. Life is good. It's easy for them. They're making money, they're chilling, they're not going to work. Everything's good. Well, then what happens? Weak men create hard times. So people are not going to have money. Things are going to get real rough. It's going to create hard times. Hard times create strong men. Everybody's going to start looking to blue-collar work instead of white-collar work. Well, maybe not fully white-collar work because, there's still doctors and things like that. But a lot of people are going to have to go to manual labor. This whole online thing is going to be, impossible for them to get started in because they're really missing decades of knowledge and information because they decided to sit around. So people are going to have to go out there and physically do labor. And I'm not talking about stacking shelves in a grocery store. I'm talking about plumbing, contracting, construction, building roofs. I mean, I'm talking about hardcore stuff. Electricians, stuff that make the world go around, right? Working in oil fields, hardcore stuff that is not easy, right? Because those might be the only opportunities left that you can't necessarily automate with AI right now. I just saw the other day on Facebook, it was a robot that can lay down cement and put tiles on top of the cement, like for flooring. If a construction guy buys one of those, he doesn't have to hire a team of 3, 4, 5 guys to mix the cement, pour the cement, level the cement, then put the tiles on there. Then, he doesn't need any of that. He just hires one of those people. So first, it's going to be the easy stuff that will be automated through AI. Then it's going to be a little bit more complex stuff. It will replace, accountants, finance people, different jobs like that. And it's going to get it worse over time. But is there going to be a safety net? I personally don't think so. So the really only real safety net you have is yourself at this point. And when you have yourself as a safety net, you're going to have to look to yourself for the answers. There's really no other way to see it. And I think this point of view on side hustles and main hustles and injecting time into certain things and focusing on things you have ownership over and not looking at the income regardless of the level of income you make from side hustles as a thing because you don't have ownership over it and it could disappear at any moment is the best way, in my opinion, to look at things. And then after that, once you get into a good spot, it's time to look at how to automate things so that you can save your time and then take that time that's left and either enjoy life, because let's face it, we are humans, we deserve to enjoy life, or invest that time into some other sort of work that will help you, down the road. But that's my point of view. I know this video is extremely practical. It's not one of these rah-rah happy videos. Maybe not necessarily motivational, I don't really know, but it's a very stable, logical level of understanding where the economy is currently going from a standpoint. And for us passive income financial freedom finders, things are going to go bad. And so we have to figure out how to handle it before, things hit the fan. Let's just say that. So thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Hopefully this video was informative, and I'll see you soon. All right. Peace out. Bye.